Kingdoms rise and empires crumble, and the knowledge and wisdom from past ages are lost to the foggy ruins of time. But for genuine seekers of truth, one place stands alone on a hill, shining brightly in the darkness. You, dear listener, have reached the Hidden Citadel.
Hey, welcome to the Hidden Citadel.
You found us.
You may have realized that we had a different intro just then, and that's just kind of a marking to say that I'm not exactly sure which episode number this one's going to be, but by the time this episode airs, we'll have been out for a year. So I figured have to do something to kind of to celebrate the fact that we've got 52 episodes in the can at least. So it's pretty. We should pat ourselves on the back. I think we've arrived now with our 20 some subscribers.
The rule of 20.
That's it. We were talking about the rule of 20. I have a philosophy, and it came to me from the ATM taking about 20 seconds to give me my receipt. Is that if you count the 20 seconds when you're aggravated, then things will probably change. If you're dealing with an annoying person, if you're standing in line, give it 20 seconds. If that's not enough, try 20 minutes. If that's not enough, you got to ask yourself, in 20 days, is this actually going to matter to me? In 20 years, is this actually going to matter to me? It's my new philosophy, the rule of 20, and Greg approves, so I've got psychological approval on
Makes
it.
a lot of sense.
And I am the type of person that I get aggravated very easily. I have one nerve, and it gets stepped on quite a lot. So I need the 20 rule. I need the 20 rule. It's all I can do.
The ratio is 20 seconds for every nerve, and you have
There
one
you
nerve.
go.
So
I have one.
everybody
So
else,
you get 20 seconds, and that's it. I don't know. I'm not a very patient person, and I don't feel happy about that. But it's like my lack of patience is not. It's mainly geared towards willful stupidity. That's the thing that gets on my nerve most of all. And like my wife and I were talking about, I was telling her about how we had mentioned the homeless problem in either our last video or one of the other videos. And I said the thing that really bothers me the most is not that they are people that don't need Jesus. That's not. I understand and I recognize that. I said I think the thing that makes me mad about the homeless thing is they're a lot of these guys are on drugs just because they're bored and they've got nothing to do, and they could be doing anything else.
Yeah.
And it's just willful stupidity.
Well, the reinforcement of a primary, what Freud would kind of a primary stimulus, or the primary ones are eating, sleeping, sexuality, that sort of thing, and or any sort of Hidden Citadel, and or endogenous opiates, which are the euphoria and thrill of things related to altered states, a high, that sort of thing. Those things, since they're physiological and they have like dopaminergic kinds of effects, are really, they become, once they happen once, there's a huge increase. They don't follow the standard rules of reinforcement sequences. And not only is it immediately reinforcing, but it is extensively probable that you're going to repeat the behavior. It's almost like profoundly probable you're going to repeat the behavior. Whereas in a normal reinforcement sequence, if you do something and I say good job, there is an increased probability, but it's a smaller percentage. Whereas something like food or something like that has a higher probability than that, much higher. But an endogenous opiate or an opiate in general is going to be so reinforcing because then it has a withdrawal quality that if you don't have
Yeah.
it, there is a negative
miss it.
feeling that you're trying to then replace with it again. So you get a lot of these guys. I see it in like especially in sports. They've done a lot of drugs and stuff, and they do it because they had money and they wanted to have fun and they were partying and whatever. Hey, that's what their choice was. But when they're caught and they're saying, now you can't play football or now you can't play whatever the sport is, they're like, well, I have a mental illness. Well, and early on in the DSM, altered states by way of drugs was a condition of a mental disorder. Not recently. Altered states has not been, is not the same, and it doesn't have that effect, especially if someone is generally functional, except for when they party, then when they're caught. Right. That's not someone who's disabled.
That's not a mental illness.
No.
Well, and the other thing too is, you will develop a mental illness. You know, it's kind of like what we talked about with bipolar. That's why artists, the thing is, well, if you do drugs or drink or whatever, it's going to help improve your art. Well, no, it's not. What it's actually going to do is it's going to swing you further in that bipolar arc until you've got further and further and further extremes, and you're going to lose your mind at some point, and that's not a good thing. So it's like I always tell my students, you know, if you're coming to me, you're learning an instrument, you're probably a fairly artistic person. Don't ever even think about doing drugs because it really gets that pendulum swinging, and you don't want that pendulum to be swinging.
Yeah, it's interesting because bipolar or even depression or mania or any of those things is not about the point. It's not a point about the point you reach. It's about the gap between where you should be or where you were and where you are. And that gap is responsible for withdrawal. Gap is responsible for disability. That is responsible for being impaired in some way. The gap, not the point.
Yeah. But that kind of brings us a little bit to what our topic is today. And our topic is people doing superhuman things. And I think in some of the instances that we'll probably talk about are a fact of extra dopamine or extra maybe adrenaline or certain surges of some sort of chemical in the brain that have allowed people to do the incredible things that they've done. Other things are just weird, and it's like, well, maybe this is supernatural, or maybe it's something about something in between. Maybe there's part of the brain that gets unlocked to release something that most people don't necessarily have. So you picked this topic, Greg. So did you have anything in mind that you wanted to talk about?
Yeah.
Because I do have some, I did make a quick list of some things if we get stuck that I can go to, and we can kind of throw some people out there as examples to talk about.
Yeah,
but go
and
ahead
you bring up something interesting, because I think there's a couple of different categories here of how this can occur. One of the things that's so interesting, like we talk about scripture a lot, but when something almost superhuman happens in scripture, it'll say the Spirit came upon him, and so you have like Samson was destined to be a judge, he's destined to be set apart, and that sort of thing. But at one point, it was, and then the Spirit of God came upon him, and that's where he was able to do what he was able to do with
superhuman
strength, feats of strength, almost like Hercules.
Well, I'm convinced that Hercules was based off Samson.
Yeah, well,
and I think we did talk about that in another episode.
But you look at like David, and one of the things that's interesting about David, I think his superhuman. And this is going to get a little maybe untoward.
Okay.
But his was accuracy. He was able to.
Yep.
Even if he was going to attack something, I think he could attack in a way that it was mortally affected. So when he attacked, when a lion and a bear attacked his sheep, he took it out, beat it, and then ripped it and killed it, right?
Yeah.
And so, but with that, he's not going to be stronger than it, but he's going to be more accurate. All he has to do is get to one part of the brain, one strike. And how do we know that? From what happens later with Goliath.
He gives us
exactly where it's supposed to be. David was accurate. And it's interesting because that would be in confluence with God's own heart, truth, accuracy, being on being on a
That's
path,
awesome.
and being on a path and not missing the mark. That is God's own heart, and missing the mark. When you're missing the mark, you're off your path.
Not accuracy.
Being on the mark is being where you're supposed to be at the right time. So it's the confluence of being in time and space at the correct time and point. But here's the part that's a little untoward. How many times did it take before Bathsheba got pregnant?
Just the one.
Very accurate.
Very accurate.
he was cursed with his accuracy there.
He had a lot of kids too, because Solomon was not the first. I mean, that guy. I was counting up. You know what's interesting is I just finished First Chronicles, and it gets to the point where David is instilling Solomon on the throne. And there's a lot that Chronicles doesn't cover that the Book of Kings actually does cover.
Yeah.
And like the fact that there was a rebellion and that the one son wanted to be the king and all this stuff. And what I don't understand, this is a little bit of a side jaunt, but I don't understand why the Book of Kings references the Book of Chronicles and says everything else is written there, and yet the Book of Chronicles is really kind of a shortened version of all of it. And then at the end of the Book of Chronicles, it says if you want more information, go to the Book of Kings and the Book of Nathan and the Book of Gad. And I'm like, Nathan and Gad, we're missing 2 whole books, you know, that tell more about David's story. And obviously we're talking about a different Book of Chronicles, because the Book of Chronicles that we have is the one that was probably written by Ezra, which means that there was another Book of Chronicles that Ezra was basing it on, you know. And so it's kind of like, you know, it's too bad we don't have those books anymore, you know. Or maybe we do. They could be in the Dead Sea Scrolls for all I know. But
I think in that case, I thought there's references to not the Book of Kings from the Bible, but there's these books of Kings that you could find that were
could be.
They talk about, are they not found in the annals of whatever?
In this one, it says it's in the book of the book of Samuel the seer, which I'm assuming must be 1st and 2nd Kings, and then it says in the book of Nathan the prophet and the book of Gad the seer. And so I'm like, okay, well, I'm assuming, because in the Septuagint it calls 1st and 2nd Kings Samuel, or the book of Samuel. So I'm like, maybe that's what it's talking about. I don't know. It's just an interesting thing. It'd be nice to do some more research on that. I didn't mean to get sidetracked in there, but I literally just read that this morning, and I thought that was kind of an interesting thing. All right, so
going back to what I was saying before, then you have, that's a spiritual kind of thing. Then you have more of like determination, where you're exerting the body in such a way that your determination is overcoming your limitation. So your determination, like we've seen, there are accounts of you know, a child being trapped under something and a mother putting herself underneath it, lifting it up. And you know what's interesting there is it's not that's impossible. Leverage, leverage can you can take a fulcrum and a lever or whatever it is and be able to do so, and just her determination to do whatever it is created the leverage it was to allow the baby to get out. It doesn't mean that she's super strong, but her determination created exactly what was necessary to allow the safety. You have
certain cases. I think what you're talking about is some people get a surge of wisdom to deal with the situation.
Yeah.
But there are situations where it's like, it's unexplainable. How did that little woman suddenly get the strength to pick up a big old Cadillac or something? You know.
But I think in fantastically we'd say it's her strength. I think if you were to like replay it and look at it, I wonder if you'd go, well, where she was positioned and what the strength that she was able to exert at the time, and where she was, that little woman created, you know, it's almost like she was able to manufacture it. So you have determination over limitation. And I think that, you know, you can have that in a variety of different sports where someone does something, you're like, how did you were able to do that? I don't know. I just needed to get it done. People going through fires, picking up things. Oh, you have those practices in I want to say like it's like India or places in the near Far East, whatever it is, where they're walking on coals and stuff, and they've just determined they are not allowing.
That's a magic trick.
Yeah, well, they're not allowing the burning to. I mean, it could be calluses, could be over to whatever it is.
Nah, it's nothing to do with that. The way that trick works is like this. There's a certain type of wood that when you burn it, it burns, but it's at such a low heat level.
Yeah.
And so what you do is you make a bed of coals out of that stuff that's really, really low, and then you put the hotter coals on top. And when you walk through it, you shuffle your feet in a way that it knocks the hot coals out of the way to where you're walking across on the cold coals.
I thought this was more.
And here's the thing. Anytime you see any extraordinary thing from India, my first thing is it's probably a magic trick, because almost and this is coming from somebody that wrote Ren Fair Magic, all right? So I know about magic tricks.
Yes.
Almost every magic trick that we know of originated in India. Mm-hmm. They are the biggest producers of creative magic all the way back through history. And the people in India are just really clever at coming up with really awesome magic tricks. The problem is, whereas in the rest of the world, we're like, oh yeah, this is just a trick, they always pass it off as this is some real power that I have. It's kind of like the David Blaine thing, just on steroids. And so everything Maharishi Mahesh Yogi did that convinced the Beatles and the Beach Boys and Donovan, it was all a scam. And there's been an expose on what a con artist he was, and it's like so many of the things that the liver, like when they do the psychic surgery, that's basically chicken livers that they're pulling out of people. It's a magic trick. I mean, there's all sorts of things that you see that kind of originate from that area that you got to be skeptical of whenever you see that there's something like the minute, like I was watching 10 kids with real superpowers you won't believe, and 3 of them were Indian, and I was like, it's a magic trick.
Well, going back, I just think remember you were talking about on one of the other Hidden Citadels about Azahel, and he was like, he could run faster than anybody. So it's just like he'd run like a gazelle. He could run but you look at even some of the
he runs so fast he impaled himself.
Yeah, he ran right
into
the spear.
Crappy ending, man.
Well, okay, so let's go back to David for a second. David and his mighty men, they're defeating 300 guys in a war in a day. Now, you think that's stamina, but going back to accuracy, if you are taking 300 strikes, which you could do in a day, and you're not doing multiple where you tire out.
Yeah, it's
your
like
accuracy, dead. Then you're not. But that, by way of accuracy, is superhuman. There are people with bows and with guns and bows and arrows. They have unbelievable accuracy. I remember there was a kid I worked with. He had autism, and he'd go into a gym, and you could hand him a basketball from wherever he was.
Yes.
It couldn't be from the other end of the gym, but it had to be within his ability to he would not even look, and he just throw it, and it would go in every time.
There's a kid on the internet, I think his name is Titus, and it's like that. He's just this little kid that he can just somehow mathematically figure, and just every single time he sinks the basket. Yeah. It's spatial geometry is his superpower, I guess.
But it's almost like what we do with our options and with our visual field and with our doubt and with our lack of complete concentration on something is disabling us in a way.
Yeah.
From being that accurate. Are we able to do it? Yes, we're able to do that. But he doesn't have any other option. In his mind, it's very. I'm coming to something else too, because he comes up, he just goes, it goes in there, because that's the only option there is. Nothing else makes any sense to him but the ball to go into the basket. There's another, but here's what's funny: there's a kid. His name's Robert. I'm not going to give you his last name because he's from our school, and he he had autism, and for a lot of us, we have a physical and mental governor which tells us when we're tired. He didn't have that, and so he went from he went out for track and was beating everybody in sprints because he had no slowdown to him. He had nothing that was
Wow.
telling him you're tired, and nothing to tell him you can't go that fast. And he just kept going, and he went from being like number one in our school, our region or area, to number 3 in the state. He just was like, and then he kind of
you would
stopped
think
because
that could be incredibly dangerous though, because like your heart would just give
yeah,
out
and
or
you have
something.
nothing holding you back from exactly. But it's almost like
Wow.
it is super in a way. It's you're
Well, there
doing
was a
something.
guy on that same video that I watched where he was a runner and he ran for 3 days straight without even stopping because he doesn't have an off switch.
Yeah.
And they said basically that he's got the kind of stamina that if he wanted to, he could just run as long as he needed. I don't get it, but your kid is not the only person that has. So that's like the Bible says, confirmed with 2 or 3 witnesses.
Yeah.
It's like it's not just a rare. It's not. I mean, it is rare, but it's not just an unheard of thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I just think that so you have that, and then you have also what we've talked about before about superhuman things, which also seem supernatural. Now you could say that the thing I was talking about David could have been spiritual. There are things in the Bible that have all kinds
what
of.
does this say about the Benjamites that they could sling a stone within a hair's breadth, like
Within a
the
hair,
whole
I love
tribe?
that.
It's
Within a
like,
hair's
dude,
breadth.
that is totally accurate.
Or the
and David
Scythians.
grew up around them.
Yeah, and the Scythians who could on full gallop, a horseback, turn and fire accurately from backside. They could just turn with
That's crazy.
with their bow and arrows, and they were like unbelievably accurate at full gallop. So that's a lot of like stimulus, a lot of variables acting against your accuracy, and yet they're able to do that. So you have a lot, and then you have a lot of like we said, we've talked about it before, where there's someone has a memory that like, wait a minute, how are they able to do that? How are they able to, people that can memorize 7 or 8 languages fluently?
Yeah.
You have like I've talked about before, the kid who could almost read your mind, or he could read your mind. You have other kids that you could ask him a day of the week from any year ever, the year 5000. You could say,
and they get
what's July 2nd, and they go, it's a Thursday. It's that fast. Because
dang, that's crazy.
Because they know what the kind of the formula is automatically, and then it's almost like going back to there's no other option. When we have so many things we're thinking about, I think Solomon even talks about this. When you're thinking about it, it causes error. It causes, it's like too many words cause error, but too many thoughts, and because words are the subject, words are the bricks and the mortar of thought, right? So if you are,
that makes sense.
So if you have a lot of words, then you have a lot of error, you have a lot of doubt, because error causes doubt. The possibility or the practice of error then causes doubt. But if you have none of those things, if it's just one thing,
dude, think about what Adam and Eve would have been like then before, and what people could have been like, because we wouldn't have doubt.
Yeah,
most things we wouldn't have doubt about at all. And you're right; it's like the doubt is what really messes you up. And and I think vision too. Like we were down at the gun range, and I was practicing switching out, and I was like, with my bifocals, my one eye, it's really hard to be accurate now.
Yeah.
With and it's like, but then my natural inclination is to want to switch eyes, and you can't do that, because you have to look down, you have to sight with the eye that you're shooting with, and so it's kind of like there's a part of vision that goes along with this too. And I don't mean vision as in necessarily seeing, but you have to be able to, like you said, you have to look at what's in focus that's important and block out all of those other distractions. And I think that's what's interesting about autistic people is they have a natural focus that
for good and for bad.
Yeah, it's for good and for bad. But it's like, if people practice that focus a little bit more, I think that's why painting is so good for your brain, because it helps you focus in on what you're doing. And I think that's why, like, there probably are other activities like that that are really, really important, that help you focus in and not get distracted by all the other little things. But I also think that's why our phones are really bad, because if you think about a phone,
Yeah.
you think, okay, that's an object.
Yeah.
But it's not just an object, it's got a library in
Yeah.
here.
Yeah.
It's got a timer, it's got a clock, mine has a metronome for music. I've got an app that helps me find what plants are. I've got my Bible on here.
Mm-hmm.
It's like I've got all my music, like most of my music in my library is in my phone. So it's kind of like everything that you need in your life is right there now, and it's so distracting, because there was a time that when you left your house, you left all of the normal distractions behind,
Yeah.
and you're out there focusing. Nowadays, you walk into a store and people are like this everywhere they go, and they're not focused on anything anymore.
Yeah. Well,
It's like the opposite of autism.
well, and going back to, and really the autistic brain, other than some reported, maybe some research-based deficits in neurology, there are some it's mostly theories. I'm not sure that they found any real definite scientific, like, meaning reliable and valid deficits or differences in the neurological constructs of the autistic brain rather than the neurotypical brain. Really, if we're saying that they're without distractions, they are able to do X, Y, and Z. Going back, Audra said that one of the early practices in law, with a lot of, I want to say it's either with senators or with early law practices, was there'd be a room of 100 guys, and you'd walk in the room, you'd sit down at the table, you'd introduce yourself, and then the person next to you and everybody else around you around the table. Next person would come in, you'd introduce yourself to them, and then introduce you're working
Oh
memory.
yeah,
You
that's
had to
the
go,
ice cream game.
You'd have to go
We used
around.
to do that in school.
Well, you'd have to go around, but then they'd get really detailed about them, so that the importance was you are focusing everything without distraction on every
On that
item.
person.
But then you have other people, like, then you have things that are it feels superhuman, but it's really the skill itself is so specific that it's like, wow, they're able to do this at a high level. And for things that are random, like for instance, gambling. If somebody's very good at poker, they are picking up. They're psychologists of sorts, but they're also mathematicians.
Yeah.
They're looking at. They're able to count how many things are left. All these details that are there at such a high level that the majority of us can't keep track of all that.
My cousin Tom is like that. You
Yeah.
do not want to play cards with him.
Yeah, my sister's like that. She can count the deck. She can tell.
That's how he is.
And I'll say, why don't you go to Atlantic City? And she goes, I'm not going to do that there. So she knows she'll get in trouble. So,
Yeah.
or fishing, guys, and this is the guys without the use of, like, the sonar in the water and the radar or whatever, the fish detectors. Without those, they can go in and they're looking around. They're like, all right, this is the time of day. This is the depth. This is where they are. This is what they're doing. They know so much about it, and they're successful every time, or almost every time, because they've focused so much on the probability of something that their probability is so high and ours is so medium to low that it's like, wow, look at
non-existent.
Or non-existent, yeah.
When it comes to fishing, I suck at it.
I have a friend. I have a friend who can, and this actually, he does what he talks about, and he's a police officer. He's I don't know what he is now, but he's been SWAT. He's been a detective. He's been a lot of things. But I think in the first Born Identity, is that the first one? Is it Born Identity or Born?
Yeah. I think so. Yeah, the Born Identity.
The Firstborn, the Jesus.
The Firstborn.
The Firstborn movie where Matt Damon goes, he's standing, he goes, I'm in this room, he goes, I could tell you that guy over there, X, Y, and Z. This guy can handle himself in a fight. This guy's carrying a gun. This guy, he goes, but I don't know why I know that. Well, he
Yeah.
knows that from previous training. And I had a
Right.
friend, Mike, we'd walk in if I could freeze the room, if I could freeze the room and go, tell me about everybody in the room, he'd look around and go, all right, that guy's this. And because he's already walked in the room and assessed
Yeah.
everybody and had files on all of them. And the probability, essentially, for danger or trauma or some sort of intervention necessity from each of them, which is really
Yeah.
interesting because it's immediate and we don't have
Yep.
the immediacy, so which makes it
I know.
superhuman. Yeah.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
That's really, really.
So agenesis is a failure to develop the corpus
Nah,
callosum.
I think you got a short going on somewhere.
How about now? Can you hear me now?
Nope.
Oh. Nope.
If you just unplug your phone, maybe we can. I mean, unplug your.
Yeah, I unplugged everything and plugged it back in.
Yeah, I don't have. The audio's just completely disappeared now.
Can you hear me now?
I can hear like it crackling, like it's got a short in the wire or
let
something.
me switch. I'll switch headphones. Hold on. Or
Okay.
earphones. Hold on one second. I'm surprised you can't hear me now.
No, I can't hear you at all now. Now I can hear you.
All right. Try this. This is weird. How about now? Can you hear me?
Nope.
No? Oh.
Oh, it keeps. It's like it comes in and out. It's like as you move, it crackles in and out.
How's that?
I can hear you now.
Okay.
Okay, agenesis.
So agenesis is a meaning away from, genesis means development of. The corpus callosum is the strands that connect the two hemispheres in the brain, and
Okay.
so that's how they it's how they communicate. And so learning, taking in information on one, is processing on the other, then communicating back and forth. And as you communicate with greater amounts, that the corpus callosum increases. It is thought that males have less strands and less, overall less thickness in their corpus callosum than females, because females have more information going back and forth because they're communicating and analyzing things on a more frequent level rather than on a more durative.
It makes sense because they got to take care of the children and make sure that they're not running all over and getting eaten by a bear. Well, I mean, back in the day, I would think that's why it would develop like that.
Well, so then, but males are thought to be better at math and science because when they take it and they process, it remains on one hemisphere for longer instead of going back and forth. And so it remains and then goes. And so the number of strands necessary is lesser in males. This is all, this, you can look this up. This is real. I mean,
Sure.
this is not me.
Yeah.
This is like the definition of theoretical. Well, this is from if you were to read information about the corpus callosum, that's what this would say.
Yeah. Well, anyway,
so,
this person, Kim Peak, he could read 2 pages at one time, one with each eye, and recall nearly every detail over 12,000 books.
Wow.
I wonder if that could be learned. Like if you could practice. I mean, I can't even focus. Well, maybe I can. No, I can't focus each eye on something different.
That seems like strabismus or something.
I know. Here we're getting into super strength and pain resistance. There's Zamora the Torture King, who is a sideshow performer who skewers himself with swords and walks on. Well, see, here's the problem: walking on hot coals without pain is a sham.
Yeah.
Scientists studied him and his high pain tolerance and the ability to control bleeding. That's another trick, okay? The ability to control bleeding, I'll show you. You take a ball like this, and there were a lot of yogis and stuff that were known to be able to slow down their blood pressure. They take the ball and they put it under their armpit, and then they have a doctor, and of course the ball's a little smaller than this, but the doctor checks and he's like, oh my goodness, the pulse is gradually slowing down. And this was just an old magic trick that people would do. And the other thing, you would cut yourself and you would be bleeding, and then all of a sudden you could stop the bleeding. And people didn't realize that they had a ball up there in their armpit that they were using to. Again, that's a trick that came from India.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, the Indian magicians, they're amazing and they know how to do this stuff. And maybe Zamora, I don't know where he came from, but Zamora also, his real name was Tim Crickland, and he also had the ability of nerve control, so he could push needles through his body without flinching or bleeding, and he's been studied for possible altered nerve responses. I have a feeling that's probably a magic trick too, so I'm not giving Zamora the prize for super strength. Anyway, we got this guy named Jackie Bibby. He's known for snake endurance. He held 7 live rattlesnakes. Why on earth, on God's earth, anybody would do this? He held 7 live rattlesnakes in his mouth for over 10 seconds and was bitten over 10 times in his life with minimal reaction, earning him the nickname the Texas Snake Man. Of course, we do know that you build up you build up an immunity to snake venom. Did you hear about Chuck Norris?
Mm-mm.
He got bit by a cobra, and after 5 agonizing days, the cobra died.
I know. I knew we were going there.
No, actually, he was on a show, I think it was with Jay Leno, and there was a scene in Walker, Texas Ranger, where he was supposed to pick up this cobra and chuck it out of the way, or not cobra, a rattlesnake, and chuck it out of the way.
Yeah.
And so Chuck said, well, the first time I grabbed the snake, threw it out of the way, and that was fine. Everything was great. And he said, but that take wasn't good enough because they had the light wrong or something was messed up.
Yeah.
And he said, so the director said, do it again. And so they put the snake back. He said, the second time the snake was on to me. And he said, when I reached down, I grabbed the snake and it bit me right in the hand. And he said, I finished the shot and chucked it away. But he said, it got me really good. And he said, I had to go get anti-venom to deal with the snake bite.
Why would they?
And then 5 days later, the rattlesnake died.
Yeah.
No, the first part of that was true. But why would they what?
Why would they put a fully venomous snake on a? I mean, that's like giving Alec Baldwin,
Yeah, a loaded gun. I don't know. Don't know why they would do that. There's a guy named Isao Machi. He's got samurai reflexes. He's a modern-day samurai who can slice a speeding bullet in midair with a sword. His reaction time was clocked at less than 0.1 seconds. That's pretty impressive. I mean, if you can slice a bullet out of the air, because not only do you have to be able to hit the bullet, that's your accuracy part, you have to be able to see the bullet to be able to hit it and cut it in half. And if that bullet is just a little bit one way or the other, you're not going to hit it. Dean Karnazes is called the Ultra Marathon Man. He ran 50 marathons in 50 days and once ran 350 miles. Oh, this is the guy I was talking about. Miles nonstop. Studies found he produces almost no lactic acid buildup, which that's interesting.
Yeah. But it just does feel like, when you think about like the guy, the Chariots of Fire guy.
Yeah, that guy.
He said, he was an amazing runner, and his whole thing was like, I'm not going to run on Sundays, that sort of thing. But they said, why do you run? Essentially, he goes, because God made me.
Yeah.
He made me this way, so I'm doing what he gave me to do, which is really interesting because he just realized what his significant feature is that he was given, and he's going to do it anyway. Like he's going to do some part of that anyway. I mean,
that's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
And that's the whole thing about finding your purpose. I mean, I don't really agree with a lot of theology that Rick Warren kind of holds to, but I really enjoyed the Purpose Driven Life book, and I feel like that book really had a big impact on me in early in my life, and it was like, you know, finding your purpose and what you are supposed to do
Yeah.
is, and it may be different. I mean, if that guy's purpose is to run, then you run. You know, if somebody's purpose is to paint, then you paint. You know, it's like you just got to find out what your hand finds to do. Do it. That was one of my favorite passages in the Bible. And it's
Yeah.
like every season in life, it may be that you find a different thing to do too.
Yeah.
You know, it may not always be the same thing all the time. So then we got a guy named Wim Hof, known as the Iceman. He climbed Mount Everest wearing only shorts. He can sit in ice baths for 2 hours, and he ran half a marathon in -4 degrees Fahrenheit barefoot. He claims to control his automatic nervous system through breathing. Then there's a person named Liu Thro Lin, the magnetic man of Malaysia, claimed to have a magnetic field in his body, sticking metal objects to his skin and pulling cars with magnetic force, possibly linked to unusually sticky skin but still mysterious. Listen, I did see a kid, and let's see if I can find his name, because it was on another video. And there are things. Oh, here it is, the magnetic kid. Now, let me see if I can. Ilan Stolikovic from Croatia is a kid that's known to be magnetized. But in the video, there's a shot of him with all these magnetic things sticking to him, but he has a cell phone that's got a plastic case and a remote control that has a plastic case, and they're sticking to him. Now, if I take my remote and put a magnet to it, it's not going to stick. If I
Right.
take my cell phone and put a magnet to it,
Yeah.
it's probably not going to stick. So when I look at that as a magician, I say, okay, there's a con going on here. I'm like, if they're putting sticking things to themselves that are not magnetic, then I don't know that I can buy that. There's something else going on, and I think a lot of times when you see a little kid, especially that's got some kind of special power, it's the parents trying to make money off of it, is what I think. And I could be totally wrong about this kid. I don't know, and I could be totally wrong about this guy too. But to me, it just seems like a magic trick that I haven't learned the solution to yet. But you know, that's how I think through these things. Then we got Ben Underwood. This guy's cool. I've actually seen several of these, and Ray Charles was known to do this too. He uses echolocation, so he's a blind kid who can see using echolocation like a bat by making clicking sounds and detecting objects with sound reflections. Back in the 90s, I remember in school we had Channel 1, and there was a kid that could skateboard and play basketball and do all these things by using echolocation, and then he started teaching other kids how to do it. And in the Ray movie, Ray Charles is walking down the street and he doesn't have a cane or anything, and somebody's like, how are you able to do this? And he was like, I got hard sole shoes. And they're like, what does that have to do with anything? And he says, I can tap it and I can figure out where I'm at by tapping my shoe against, you know, the whatever the surface that he's in. And then he also had the ability to numerically know, okay, this is how many steps I got to take, and he can be having a conversation with somebody and go right to where he needs to go. And I'm like, man, how do you do that? I mean, I don't know how to keep counting while I'm having a conversation with somebody, even if I'm doing it out loud.
Yeah.
And it's like somebody like Ray Charles, that they could just do that all the time, or this kid, Ben Underwood, or whoever that other kid was. Then we've got Natasha Demkina, the girl with x-ray eyes. This is a weird one too. This is a Russian girl who claims to be able to see inside people's bodies and diagnose illnesses. And the first time I think it happened was she was able to look into her mom and notice that something was off.
Yeah.
And they say she has mixed test results, but some researchers found her accuracy compelling. I feel like there's a magic trick there too.
Or spiritual. I mean, remember
It
the
could be
girl.
spiritual.
Remember the girl with Paul? Yeah.
Yeah, it's possible. But you would think if it was spiritual, it wouldn't have mixed test results. Anytime they say there's a mixed result, that's what makes me think of a magic trick.
Well, I think if it's a evil spirit, then it could, because it'd be inconsistent. I don't think it'd be. I think it'd be every
Why
time.
would it be though? If it was an evil spirit, wouldn't it want consistency
Well,
to be able to
I'm
get
making it.
people off on the wrong?
I'm making it in contrast to the good kind of the Holy Spirit, which would be accurate. It would be accurate every time and fully
but you could,
reliable. I guess is what I'm saying.
but not to denigrate the Holy Spirit, but God's purposes are not always to heal. So it's
Correct.
like some
I'm not
people
talking
that
about,
are like,
I'm just saying in general.
yeah,
not
so
in
it's
this
like,
case. Yeah.
But I'm just saying from a human perspective, we're supposed to walk by faith and not by sight.
Yeah.
And so God doesn't allow the Spirit to heal every single time.
I'm not, but again, I'm not talking about healing. I'm just saying that she could be inconsistent because they are inconsistent. They are unreliable.
Well, that could be, but I'm just thinking if you're a demon and you're using somebody this way.
Yeah.
If I was the demon, I'd be like, man, I better be accurate all the time because I want to lead people away from God, and I know that He has times when He doesn't heal people. So,
but if you're,
I mean, that's just my thought process.
If you're a demon, you're also not benevolent, and you're not good.
That's true.
So that whatever you're doing that's producing good,
it makes you mad.
Why are you doing it? And second, and then second, number one, why are you doing it? And secondly,
I like
at
that.
some point, what you're ending up with is not going to be good. So that's where it gets kind of like, I think it becomes. It also becomes you're finite. You're not infinite. So what you're producing over time may not be something that's consistent. I'm just saying.
Yeah. I guess it really goes down to what your end goal is.
Yeah. Well, your litmus test is
demon.
Contrasting with God, I guess.
Yeah. Well, and then that brings up the whole concept of, do individual demons have their own personality? And I would think, yeah, they probably do. And I think when you look at exorcists and hear their stories, that each demon kind of has their own little, thing that they're good at doing with people and how to lead people astray. So who knows? Maybe I don't know. Maybe it is a spiritual thing.
Yeah.
Then we've got the electric. This is. I don't know why he's even in this list, but I'll get to him in a second. There's a guy, Slavisa Pajkic, known as the Battery Man, could allegedly conduct and withstand high voltages of electricity without harm. He could light bulbs with his body and heat metal coils. And I also saw this other kid from Pakistan or somewhere that I think he was from India too. He was known as like the human electrical whatever, and he could like put live wires in his mouth and all this kind of stuff. And it's like, I don't know, it smells of a magic trick to me. And this guy, it was a magic trick. Uri Geller, famous for bending spoons and metal. Yeah, he was debunked by skeptics, but many still believe his early demonstrations involved unusual mental focus. Dude, you can go to penguinmagic.com and probably buy the Uri Geller course on how to bend spoons. So it's like, that's ridiculous. There's a guy named Michel Lotito, Monsieur Mange Tout, which means he could eat anything. He ate bicycles, glass, and even a small airplane. I guess he did it a little bit at a time. His stomach lining was several times thicker than average, protecting him from injury. I saw this guy on TV a long time ago. I remember him. Then there was Veronica Sider. She has eagle vision, a German woman who could allegedly see details over a mile away and distinguish microscopic objects with the naked eye. That'd be kind of neat.
The guy digesting is really dubious because it's not it's not the stomach lining. You have to have a very
Well, there's a lot more
overproductive
to it.
intestine, and then think about the colon, and thinking
I
about
know.
the rectum. You're
Well, you would have to have enough stomach acid, like a really acidic
yeah,
amount of stomach acid, to be able to break that down into something that your colon
that
and
can
your
process.
bowels
Yeah,
could handle. So it's like, if his stomach lining really is that
efficient.
extensive,
Yeah,
then that means that it's not really it's the stomach lining in conjunction with the highest amount of acidic stomach fluid that anybody's ever produced.
Mhm.
And that makes you think, okay, well, I'll bet, if our theory, if that's true, I'll bet he's one of those type of people that when he touches metal, like, it rusts quickly. I've
yeah,
seen people like that where they're so acidic in their skin that they touch paper and
yeah,
it breaks down, or metal and it eventually rusts over time. It's like,
yeah.
I don't know, maybe, but I agree that kind of seems pretty weird. Except I watched that guy on TV do it, so if it was on
Mm-mm.
TV, it has to be
No, it has to be
true.
true. Yeah.
Then there's Anna Bagenholm, a hypothermic survivor. She survived being trapped under ice for 80 minutes with no heartbeat. Her body temperature dropped to 56 degrees Fahrenheit, and she made a full recovery. But really, that's nothing compared to Captain America, who
Nope.
was down there for 70 years. So, I
Yep.
mean, I'm not impressed.
Nope.
Gary Stretch Turner had elastic skin. He holds the Guinness record for the stretchiest skin due to Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. His skin can stretch over 6 inches. I guess that would be like a human version of Mr.
Reed
Fantastic.
Richards. Yeah.
Reed Richards, yeah.
Yeah.
Or who was the DC version? The
Mr.
one that was drawn
Fantastic
really
is an Elton
poorly?
John album.
Captain Fantastic is the Elton John album. Yes, and the Brown Dirt Cowboy. And that's a really good album, actually. Um, Nina Kulangina, alleged telekinesis, a Soviet woman filmed moving objects with her mind under lab conditions. Still controversial, but some Soviet scientists defend her authenticity. You know, telekinesis is an interesting thing because, to me, that is smacks of demonic activity.
Well, that's what
Because,
a lot of former um, possessed people will say. They used to walk down alleys and be able to
yep,
open garage doors, and they just do it for
yeah,
fun. But this is what I'm saying from before our conference, the previous point. At some point, it tails off. It's
yeah,
just like the Faustian thing. You start off with it, and then the relationship changes. And so,
mm-hmm,
what starts off as something fun and amusing, almost similar to the way we were talking about with drugs. It starts
yeah,
off fun and amusing, and then it takes over. So, I mean,
yeah,
but you always hear the accounts that they start off in one way, and then it starts getting dark, and that's when they eventually realize they're at risk, and they need a solution other than the demons. That ends up being Christ.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and the other thing, too, is a lot of times people think, or erroneously, that, oh, this is a superpower that I've developed, and somehow I'm extra special because I can do this superpower. And it's like, that doesn't, it's non sequitur. You
Yeah.
know, it's like, it doesn't necessarily mean that you are the one with the superpower just because it's manifesting through you.
Mhm.
You know, and it's like, you should always be suspect if all of a sudden you start coming up with some sort of strange ability, superpower that you don't know about, and you suddenly do it, you might want to go talk to somebody at church about that power for a minute. Then there's this guy named Ingo Swann, which we need to do a whole episode on him. He worked with the CIA Stargate project, and he allegedly viewed distant locations and even described features of Jupiter before NASA confirmed them. That story, there's a Y files on him, and it's really
Mm.
interesting. And
Yeah.
I think there's a couple other. I even think the Haunted Cosmos might have done an Ingo Swann episode
Mm.
recently, and his whole tale is really strange. And the CIA had a whole collection of these people doing remote viewing to try to be. And one guy, I think it was Ingo Swann, he saw them creating a new submarine, and the government laughed at him and said, "Well, we know that you're not accurate because there's nobody could build a submarine that large and have it inland in
Yeah.
a factory." What happened 2 months later was they found out that the Russians did have a factory inland, and that it was ice from the factory all the way out to the sea, and then they had ice cutters come in and they cut a big old channel, and then they just released the sub, and it was the biggest sub that ever had been produced
Wow.
at that time. So it's like he saw it accurately, which is really strange. Now we get to the lifting vehicles to save lives. Angela Cavallo in 1982 in Georgia lifted a Chevy Impala off of her son Tony, who was pinned underneath while repairing it.
Yeah.
She held it up long enough for neighbors to drag him out, and this was reported by the Charlotte Observer and other witnesses. So that's kind of interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Tom Boyle pulled a biker from under a Camaro in 2006 Arizona, but Tom was a bodybuilder, and he witnessed a car hit a cyclist and immediately lifted the front end of a Chevy Camaro to pull a man out. That may, if he's a bodybuilder, that may not be much of an extraordinary feat, though.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know how heavy a Chevy block is, but or a Camaro block, but who knows?
Andre the Giant used to move small cars by himself.
My brother and I picked up a small car. My car slid off the road one time. It was a Geo Metro, and I called my brother, and he came down, and we picked it up and put it back on the road. You know, so it's, and that's about the size of a Renault. So I mean, it can be done. Lydia Angiou fought off a polar bear in 2006 in Canada. In Nunavut, Canada, Lydia, an Inuit grandmother, well, there it is right there. You don't mess with an Inuit grandmother.
No.
Attacked a polar bear with her bare hands to protect children. The bear retreated and was later shot by a hunter. The Royal Canadian Mounted Police confirmed the event. That's amazing. I mean, but David fought a bear too. So it's kind of like, this is something that can happen.
That's one of my favorite parts of Scripture is when David goes to Saul and he goes, you know, a mountain lion attacked my sheep. I went and I caught the mountain lion and freed the sheep first.
Yeah, and killed it.
And then killed it with my bare hands. And then I don't know if he said it was bare hands, that he just killed it. Then a bear.
He just killed it, yeah.
A bear. He talked about the same thing. And he goes, then he says, I can defeat Goliath.
Goliath, yeah.
Goliath. But the thing that's so interesting here is Goliath is the weakest of the three. A mountain lion is a killing machine. It makes no false moves. It will kill in the first boom. A bear is one of the strongest things on the planet. So Goliath is actually the weakest of those three. It's really funny the reasoning he says there. I am faster and more deadly than the mountain lion. I am stronger than
the bear.
The bear. I can beat this
He's
guy.
nothing.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Then we've got Nick Harris, who wrestled a burning car door open in 2015 in Utah after witnessing a fiery crash. Harris forced open a crumpled car door and rescued a man moments before the vehicle exploded.
Wow.
Charlotte Heffelmeyer lifted a truck and drove it away. 19-year-old woman lifted a pickup truck off her pinned father and then drove the truck away from a pool of spilled fuel, preventing a massive fire. And she was recognized by the U.S. Air Force for her heroism. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. I am a believer. You know, I believe a lot of stuff, but I'm also kind of a natural skeptic.
Yeah.
So it's like every time and I don't think that's a bad thing. I think every time you watch something, you should kind of be skeptical of it. Like recently, I saw an article about the Mexican artist who was, DC Comics had like a prize for all over the world where you could design Batman, redesign him in your own culture.
Yeah.
Okay? So this guy sculpted this really cool headdress that looked like a Mayan headdress that looked like Batman. I have seen memes all over the internet. They're like, look, this is where Batman's costume actually came from. It was this Mexican design. And in Gary Wayne's book, he talks about the Batman of Mexico and how it influenced, and then he goes on this whole extrapolation about this, and I'm like, this is what I'm talking about bad research.
Yeah.
You should be skeptical of every single thing.
It's anachronistic.
Until you actually see it and can verify it. It's like, keep an open mind. What is the phrase? Believe but verify, or whatever.
Yeah.
It's like that's the whole thing. So anyway, I don't know. There's a lot of these things that have happened. The last one I want to talk about is Debbie Carter, my mother-in-law, although this lady spells her name different, saved a child from a cougar in 1996, British Columbia, because the cougar attacked her 3-year-old nephew. She kicked and hit the animal until it let go. The child survived with scars, and the story was confirmed by wildlife officials. This is what we're talking about with David. Here's a lady that fought off a cougar attack, and it's like, the people look at the Bible and they're like, yeah, that's ridiculous. David, he didn't really fight a lion and a bear. He just made that up, and they just added that to the story. It's like, it's perfectly conceivable, and not inconceivable, but conceivable, that he fought off these animals. And it's like, you know, some things make sense, and you can look at it and say, yeah, that is believable. Other things like Magnet Boy, I'm not so sure.
Oh, there's people that fought off sharks and alligators as well.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's true.
They got a hold of them. They dug their thumbs into their eyes, or the shark, they bashed him in the nose, and whatever it was. And they said other people didn't. Other people have died,
gotten eaten.
But it's certainly there are enough cases for both, though.
So
this is
let's.
Cool.
I don't know how we can tie this into a JHS pitch, though. I mean,
superhuman. It's you
have to have a superhuman pedal.
I mean, when you think of it's got to be some sort of boost pedal. It's got to be something.
Oh, there you go.
I mean, it's got to be something that it takes the sound and makes it unlike any other normal range.
I'll tell you what would be a useful boost pedal. A boost pedal that has noise gate properties within it.
Oh.
Because a lot of times when you use a boost pedal, you get an awful lot of extra noise that you don't really want in it. And if somehow it could have a frequency isolator in it that goes through the most common frequencies that cause noise in your cable or in your setup, like 60 cycle hum, things like that. If it just naturally found those frequencies and took them out and then boosted the signal, that would be a pretty useful boost pedal.
That's cool. I bet he hasn't thought of that.
Maybe not, but that one, and nobody seems to have thought of it, because I have tried a lot of boost pedals over the years, and all I get is just a lot of bzzz going through it.
So we'll call it the Stargate.
There you go. Nice. I like that. So, Josh, there you go.
The Stargate.
We need that pedal.
Yeah.
And if you love us, you need to go check out Hidden Citadel 4 at WordPress.com, where we have lots of articles. I don't know, Greg, if you've seen this, but I've been on a roll connecting Nimrod to other ancient cultures.
I saw that. Yeah.
And it has been fascinating, because I thought, well, let me start with the NMR compound and the Shinar compound, SHNR, and let me look throughout other language groups and see if I can find heroes or great characters. Then I wrote an article yesterday about Krishna-Nimrod connection.
Yeah, I saw that.
So Kree is like a form of Kur, and Shna is like a form of Shinar. Like I saw the connection there. I'm in the process of working on one from North Africa and southern part of Europe, and I'm finding all sorts of interesting stuff, even with Odin. Like there's like the DN kind of thing makes you wonder, okay, is there a connection there? So it's like these are all speculative articles, but they're definitely something that I think people in those fields would be really cool if they could do some more research on that and get us more info. I think that would be cool. But that's what's been going on with the Hidden Citadel 4 at WordPress. We also have our t-shirts over at redbubble.com. And again, we really love the shirts. They look great, but we wouldn't mind switching to a different, more reputable company, I guess. So if you know of anybody, please put it in the comments and we will check them out too. Then we've got our book, The Encyclopedia of Weird Crap, Volume 1. Volume 2 is coming out. The Parafables are coming out. I've been working on the images for the latest Parafable.
That's going to be so sick.
It's going to be awesome. I can't wait. And we're going to maybe even do like some audio recordings of the Parafables.
I think so.
That way you can share the videos too.
I feel like that one in particular is such a culmination of everything we talk about. All in one little nugget. All in one cool thing.
But I will tell you what, the rope one, the rope in the fire department, I really like that one. And if I can get the art to come out right on that one, that's going to be a fun one too. But I really like the Parafables so far. I think they're such a cool thing, and I can't wait till everybody gets to see them. My Ren Fair book's out. We've got all of our other books. The Brothers Graham have music coming out. The Fantastic Flying Frogs. I just finished Whiskey in a Jar.
That's so cool. It's so good.
Listen, I realized I had never actually heard Metallica's version of that song, so I went and listened to it yesterday. And I was like, they completely missed the point. So in Irish, whiskey comes from the word huisca, which means water. And so the jar is where he kept his gunpowder, and she poured water into it, and that's how we date this song, that we know that the word whiskey, this song came out before the word whiskey was used to describe the alcoholic drink. And so it's whiskey in the jar, and so when he tries to defend himself, he can't because his gunpowder's wet. And so, but in the Metallica version, they like completely missed that whole thing about it, and they got it. It's like it's because he shot the guy, and the Captain Farrell actually dies in the Metallica version, but in the actual song he tries to shoot him, but he gets arrested, and that's why he's in jail in that one. So I thought, anyway, I finished it up. It's a surf kind of a version, and so that one's almost ready to. It's all going to come out as one album when they're all done, but that was the first one that I actually really polished up and is done. Is there anything we're missing that we've forgotten?
T.O.B., Parallel Talents, Hard Rain.
Mandolin Dead Man's Tuning Books, Fantastic Flying Frogs.
Facebook and Instagram of Hidden Citadel.
Oh, the other thing I found out, and I'm not sure what to think about this. There's a new kids book out called The Fantastic Flying Frogs, and it's about these little frogs that go on adventures and they have butterfly wings. And I'm like, dude, that's my band name. And I thought, should I send them a letter or cease and desist? But then I was like, well, the cool thing is whenever they look up those kids books, they're going to find me too. So who cares?
Let it
be. That's it, people. Awesome. You have been listening to The Hidden Citadel. And I forget what I normally say here, but Greg always says...
Yes, get to the Citadel because night is coming.
The watchman replies, morning is coming, but night will soon return.